welcome to tonight's episode of the Group Therapy Podcast. Today we have comic book artist and all-around cool guy, Adam Fields. Adam, tell us about yourself.
What's up? Well, first off, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be on here and chat with you. It's been a while since we've seen each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Jim and Dan's, I think, was the last time. So,
yeah.
My name is Adam Fields. I'm a comic book illustrator, independent comic book illustrator. I write and illustrate a comic book series called Prowl. I've worked on multiple different indie projects. I've been published through Antarctic Press, Image Comics, Aftershock Comics, and all around just love creating stories and putting it out there. It's a really fun industry to be in. So, yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, it was last Jim and Dan show. You gonna be at the next one?
I sure will.
Yeah,
I sure will. It's February 27th, I believe, at the Wright State Student Union.
Yep, that's
actually where I got my start. Was at one of their shows.
You know, it's funny because I've talked to some other artists, and these couple guys that they just want to, this is my stuff. You need to look at it, need to buy it. They don't want to do conventions. They don't want to be out there. I was like, man, you got to get out there. You got to be getting your, paying your dues, and you got to be out there busting your butt doing the conventions. You got to be going to shops. You got to be doing free comic book day. I was like, because then you build a audience, then them people will be like, hey, you got to check this guy out, but you get the ones who like, well, my art, you should pay for it. I'm like, I admit you're good, but if people don't know who you are, no one's going to pay for it. So
exactly.
And
I started doing the con circuit just because of that exact reason. I wanted to get in front of people because I was a nobody. Like I was in a corporate job when I first got started. So like I went from marketing at a manufacturer to creating my own story and content and wanting to work with other people. So the best way I knew it was to do that bluegrass marketing and set up and get in front of people.
Yeah, because it almost doesn't matter how good your artwork is if no one knows who you are. And the best way to do that is you got to start at the bottom and work your way up. I tell people this. I remember doing Dayton shows in the early 90s. And you know who was setting up next to me at shows? Dave Mack, Kyle Hotz. They were set at the booth next to me. No one knew who these guys were. I remember doing Columbus shows, and Jeff Smith was set up there, before Bone. And no one knew who he was. And now look at these guys, and you got to start somewhere.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. And it's an honor to actually have gotten to set up with a few of them. Kyle and I is actually set up at a Bell Book and Comic. He had a Moon Knight cover come out. And so Pete actually had me at the store with him. So it was kind of cool to be able to set up with one of my favorite artists. And that's something that when I first got started, it was miles and like 1,000 miles away from what I thought would be. And a few years later, I'm sitting there talking with him like we're good friends. So it's pretty cool.
It's funny, like I said, I've been in this business since I was 15. So I've been doing shows and stuff for 32 years now. And I started working at the first comic book shop at 15. I turned 47 last year. So I've been at this for a long time, not including the fact that I was just a collector before that. But it's neat seeing, the guys that I saw early on, no one knew who these guys were. No one knew who this one was. No one knew, and next thing you know, it starts going that, they start networking and stuff like that. Next thing you know, you're getting work, I was like, I remember meeting Sean Forney back in the day, and he was just doing his little stuff. Now he's, doing covers and ink, or he's doing colors, I believe, for he does a lot of Zenescope.
Colors, yeah.
And
Zenescope, he's done Dynamite, he's done it all.
Oh yeah, seeing Dave and Andy and them guys, forever. And now look at them guys. And seeing you started out, now you got your books out, you're working and doing stuff for, like you said, Antarctic, you're doing stuff for Aftershock. I mean, that's really cool. And it's really nice seeing, you're not local guys doing good, and it's always fun.
That's actually one of the biggest things that, like, one of my biggest messages that I try to push towards people is, like you said, I'm to you, I'm local, to
Yeah.
the viewers, they're like, well, we're in Ohio,
Yeah.
and it's I'm from a very, very small town. All right. We have like maybe 5 stoplights, and like that's it. And there's cornfields as far as the eye can see. So having a big dream like this, especially when I went from a corporate setting to this, like, everyone thought I was crazy, because the company I was with is huge. It's one of the largest ones in the world, for its style, I guess. And I just wasn't satisfied. So I kind of took a risk, especially with having a family, to pursue this. But I went to college for graphic design, marketing, advertising, all that. And that's what I kind of thought I was going to do. But I was working on Prowl at the time just for fun. And Jim and Dan actually had invited me out to his show. So I actually split the table with someone else local, and it went over really well. Like, we made one big sale, and I was on top of the moon. Like, it was crazy. The next year, we ended up doing 25 shows. So I went from 1 to 25, and that's literally how I dove all in. It was not cheap to get started, because I had to pay for every single table. We had to pay for the gas. We had to pay for rental if we needed to. We needed to pay for a hotel if I needed to. I tried to stay as semi-local as possible, but those bigger shows, I wanted to try to branch out really quick. And my ultimate goal, is really funny, was the biggest con at the time that I thought of was Gym City Comic Con, because I saw it on the commercials, and I'm like, I need to get to Gym City. And that was one of my goals. Well, 2 years after I started, my wife and I were actually walking around. No, it was actually the same year. We were walking around Gym City on day one, and we saw an empty table, and Dan happened to be there, and he goes, "Hey, you want me to talk to Jesse and see if you can set up tomorrow," which was Sunday. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready. Like, I don't have a lot of stuff. He goes, "Nah, you're good." My wife forced me into it. She goes, "You're doing it." So we came home that night and packed up my stuff, and I loaded in that morning, and that was I arrived. And ever since then, I've done C2E2, I've done Indiana Comic Con, I did a Wizard World, and the Huntington Comic Con in West Virginia. I mean, we're starting to branch out to these bigger multi-day shows. Cincinnati Expo is one of the bigger ones we do. So I want to tell anyone who wants to get started, it's a grind in the beginning, and it doesn't stop. It gets a little easier, but you still have to be able to invest that much energy and time and effort into your career. And I don't care if you're from a small town that has one stop sign, or if you're from a major city, you can make it happen.
Yeah. Because if you've got the talent and you've got the drive, you can do something, but
Absolutely.
you got to have that drive. You can have all the talent in the world. If you don't have any drive, then,
Yeah. Well, Stuart Sager and I were just talking the other day about it. He said, you've got to set goals for yourself. As comic book illustrators, once you sort of get your big breaks, it's easy to get complacent. Like, all right, I've made it. But there are younger, hungrier people out there that will happily pass you up. So It's not that you want to cut anyone's throat. It's just you want to maintain your spot on the boat before someone comes in and bumps you from it.
Yeah. What was it? My son said he wants to get a sign that's so he put up in his room that says, "Fight like you're the third monkey on the on the way to the Ark, and whether it's starting to rain."
That's right. Fight like the third monkey on the Ark, and it's starting to rain. Oh, yep. Yes. That's great.
And it's funny because, you talk about that. I've been at this and in the comic book business, collecting and everything since I was little kid. I don't remember not collecting comics. And some of the biggest comic book stars that I loved as a kid, this generation doesn't really know, because people have bumped them down the list. And it's not that their art ever really changed, or they got I think, you know, some of them just got older and sort of kind of retired. But, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of Walt Simonson. I grew up on his run on Thor. You know, there's kids that do not know who Walt Simonson is. You know, they don't know that
Mm-hmm.
his name appears at the end of, you know, the Thor movies, as that's the reason you got that Thor movie.
That Thor, yes,
Yeah.
yes, they just they don't understand that they're the ones that paved the way for us. You
Yeah.
know, I always give credit where credit's due to all the veterans before us that literally created this industry that we can actually say that we're a part of. And whether they're doing it part time or if they're all in, I you know, there was someone before you that really made it easy for us, I'd like to say.
Yeah. And those guys had to start somewhere too, you know. And
Mhm. Yeah.
um
And you know, I always hear that term breaking in, which back then you really did have to break into comics. You know, you really had to. I always think of, you know, McFarlane and the guys that the OG Image
mhm.
crew that sort of kind of created the rivalry between themselves and Marvel and DC. You know, they kind of set the bar higher and started taking, you know, some of the top talent, and they were really what made it a break-in industry. Now it's a little easier to break in with, you know, digital print and, you know, social media, and you know, you can really publish your books either through Amazon or on your own. Really, you can create your own imprint versus trying to pitch it to one of the bigger ones. Now I know, like, I'm looking at publish or pitching my story through Image just because I know I don't have the F or the reach
Mhm.
to, you know, hit all four corners of the world like Image does. So I know I've got a story. I want to focus on it and the artwork versus that and the publishing side, because publishing is a full-time gig and they've already done the hard work. So I'm pitching to them and a few others just to see who I can, you know, sort of get on my side.
Yeah. Because right now, it's funny because I'm a big supporter currently of a lot of the indie books. And I guess I
Mm-hmm.
want to say indie, but you know, smaller publishers like Black Mass, Scout Comics, Aftershock,
Mm-hmm.
Vault. These guys are putting out good stuff. And it's funny because I'm sitting there telling people, I'm like, you need to check this stuff out. And they're like, oh my God, you know, I've never heard of this book. I'm like, you need to jump on it. It's going to be, and that's why a lot of these books suddenly are getting stupid hot, because, you know, the print run
Mm-hmm.
might only be 500, and, you know, they sold out immediately, and they go to second print or whatever. And then somebody goes, some publisher or somebody else is like, we want that book. We're going to publish it, or, you know, production company or something wants the rights to it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I know it came out through Image, but Stray Dogs, that came out
It
of
did.
nowhere, and it was before the first issue came out. I think Paramount got the rights to it, if I remember right. It might be something like
I
that.
believe so. I
Yeah,
believe so. I heard that.
and that book is, the fact is it's Disney meets David Fincher is the best explanation for that. And I was like, you guys are sleeping on this. You need to get this. And it's funny because I've turned so many people onto it at the shop that have gone back
Yep.
and gotten the reprints and everything else. So yeah,
Yeah, you know, I we look at a lot of like the Netflix shows and like the originals that, like, you know, The Boys, you know, some
mm,
people didn't even know that that was a comic book to begin
yeah,
with, or Lock and Key. And I'm like, no, this is where all these original ideas are coming from. They were either books or graphic novels to start.
yep,
So, you know, because let's face it, comics, we do over half the work for them with the writing, the character development, and sometimes the camera angles and the
yeah. You're
cinematography.
storyboarding the
Like,
whole entire thing.
yeah, your storyboard and everything. So it's like, well, here it is. Just put your spin to it. And, you know, because comic fans, I know a lot of us, we look for our iconic panels in the movies. You know, when Iron Man and Captain America and Civil War were face to face, that iconic scene
Oh
with
yeah.
them with his repulsor going. I mean, that was ripped right from the pages. So it's really really cool to see those homages.
Yeah, and it's funny because there's people who have no clue that like 300 was a book, Sin City
Yep.
was a book. You know, you're just I'm like, yeah, that was a comic book, and what you know, Sweet Tooth, you know, some of these
Yep.
horror movies that come out like Sweetheart and stuff like that. I was like, that was a comic book, and they're like, what? I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I go digging
Yeah.
through my stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's right here. See?
And I just heard that Oblivion song was picked up, or was at least optioned. So I heard a rumor Jake Gyllenhaal might be the lead
Yeah.
on that. So it's like, yeah, all these were comics to begin with. So when I get asked, because I'm actually on an advisory board for our trade school, when I get asked by parents at meetings or parent events whether this is a good career, if their kid could really do something with it. So absolutely, I am. Thousands and millions of other people are, and if you look at Hollywood, that whole credit list, all those guys in the art department all had a dream too, and they're
Mhm.
doing it. So yeah, so I started flipping the script on him, and I started asking him, "So you don't believe in your kid?" Like I start making him feel guilty.
Yeah.
So
What was it?
oh well,
Every kid has unlimited potential until they're told they don't. So,
absolutely.
and it's funny because
Yeah.
I'm my kids, the whole world's ahead of them, and I always tell them, I was like, you can do whatever, you know. I will
Mhm.
I will be behind you the entire time, and
Yep.
so
I flat out told my kids move out of our area, move out of the county, move out of the state if you need to pursue your dream and make something happen. I said, we will travel. I don't care. We will come visit. Um, I don't, I just don't get complacent. But if there's something that you want that holds you back, that's fine. But, there's a whole wide world out there. So
yeah, it's unfortunately my son Joe will probably just follow right in my footsteps because he'll just pick up when I take him. He
that's fine.
yeah, he's my he's me. uh, so I got to get this one out of the way. If you can
Okay.
work on any book or any character, who are you working on?
Spawn.
Spawn?
It used to be Venom, but I'm telling you, Spawn. Now that he's got his universe out there, I've not read them, but I've seen some of the artwork, and I know a few of the artists that are on the titles. That is a world that I would absolutely love to be a part of and put my touches on the Violator and Spawn, and all like that whole cast is just so gross. I love grit and dark, and that's my approach. So yeah, Spawn 100%.
That's funny. I know this is bad. I'm getting all those Spawn books except for Spawn. I get King Spawn, I
Really?
get Gunslinger Spawn, I get Scorched, and I just I loved Spawn when it first started, and I
Yeah.
liked it to about I think about issue 100, and then I just
Hmm.
kind of fell off for me. But there's story arcs I like, but like
Oh yeah, yeah.
you know. But now with what they're doing with like Gunslinger Spawn and Scorched, I'm like hell yeah. I'm like sign me up. The artwork's great, the covers are great. The
Yep.
you know, and then I shouldn't do that. I'm a sucker for that stupid variant cover bull crap. That I like.
Right. I gotta admit, I I love the variant covers. I don't. I'm so this is might just be a big sin, but I'm not a comic book collector. So a lot of my fans know that, and now the world's gonna know. But what I do collect is story. I do collect trade paperbacks and certain like single issues, like Oblivion Song, for instance. I have all of them to date, all first printings. I love that
Mhm.
storyline. It was really good. But I just I don't have time to really collect in the variant. But if there is a cover that comes out from one of my favorite artists, like if Stewart has a cover, I always grab it. Kyle has a cover, I grab it. Todd Knock is one of
Yeah.
my other favorite illustrators from Marvel. I got his covers. So there are certain titles that I have that I'll look through, but I wait for the trades to come out. Um, but I do from a business standpoint, I do like the variant cover side because that's how a lot of us get our start is doing variant covers. So it is a really cool opportunity. One title offers up 5 different covers plus maybe a store variant. So
Yeah.
I've got my foot in the door because of store variants. So it's really neat to be on that side of things and get to see your artwork on a book that only a handful of people in the world are going to get. So it's a
Yeah.
really cool feeling.
And yeah, it's now I'm the other way around. I am a massive collector. Unfortunately, my Tina hates it, but
And we
I
all got to have a hobby. You know what I mean?
I I have I got OCD, and we were talking about this earlier because me and Mark were at the gym, and I go, I'm not even I collect X-Men. I don't much care for the current storyline and stuff like that. I was like, but I've literally collected X-Men since I was like 7. So like for 40 years, you know how hard of a habit that is to break?
You can't break that. No, you got to see it through.
Yeah. I was like, I will collect it until I die and go, Dad, these books are good. These are garbage. Just
That's right. Yeah, that knowledge is going to be priceless at that time.
mm-hmm. Remember when X-Men was the must-have book? I mean, every kid read X-Men, and now it's like, I have guys that have collected X-Men for years, and now they're just like, nah, I'm dropping it. I'm like, I get it. I'd drop it too, but
yeah,
I can't.
you can't. No. Can't. It's in your DNA now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You got the X gene. You know what I mean? It's.
Oh my god, that Swamp Thing. I will collect Swamp Thing till the day I die.
Now Swamp Thing is one I do like. I remember the '90s TV show. And I actually had the old action figures and stuff. That was one I really loved as a kid. That's when I started really liking the dark grunge stuff. And I was like not even 10. So
I was I remember finding when Wes Craven made the original Swamp Thing movie, and I was like, that's cool. And then I found the comics, and I was like, oh, that's when I discovered Bernie Wrightson and I was like,
Bernie.
oh, and I fell in love with that dark, horror artwork that he did, and that was downhill. Then I was also collecting like Tomb of Dracula and Werewolf by Night and stuff like that, and I still collect.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. That has always been my go-to style was dark and gritty, and I always get asked, what's the hardest thing for me to draw, and it's like anime and cute. I can't do that. I have to like I'm just looking at this recent cover I did. It's dark and gritty, and I love it. That's the more ink I can throw on it and the more texture, the better.
Well, I always told people back in the day when I could still draw before years of factory work has killed my hands, but I used to be pretty good. And I was like, I could draw really dark, stuff. And then I was like, they're like, what can't you draw? Puppies. I can't draw
puppies.
I can't draw kittens.
Puppies and cherubs.
Yeah, I can't draw cute stuff. I can draw like barbarians and war machines and all that stuff like that. But man, try to get me to draw something cute and fluffy. Can't do it.
Can't do it. No. I used to try to be the jack of all trades, that old saying of like, I could draw anything, but now I've actually limited myself because one, I don't want to get frustrated working on something. And two, I don't want to deliver something that is not my best. I don't want them to pay me for mediocre and for something that somebody else could have knocked out of the park. So if it's dark, gritty, even if it's not even a horror themed comic or whatever, but if they can just let me be me in the book, awesome. Or on the cover or whatever. But if they want, something friendly and fluffy, and think Scotty Young, I can't. I tried him, or George Corona or Jorge Corona, however you want to pronounce it. I can't do that type of artwork. I've tried. I've practiced. I've even tried drawing Pokemon. I can draw Pokemon and stuff, but I find myself like wanting to render it out and like add shadow, like just to go all in. That's just how my brain works. So if someone wants to commission a Pokemon, I can, but I'd
You,
rather do my style.
you ever had somebody commission you at work, like bring you a sketch cover and go, "Hey, can you draw, this?" And be like, "Yeah, I can't do that." Can I get?
I have I have turned down more jobs than I think any businessman really would like to admit. But I think one of the most important things about anyone really getting started in this is know your limits. I mean, I I get asked all the time, how do I price? From people just getting started, how do you price your stuff? What do you get paid per hour? I'm like, I don't get paid per hour. I get paid per piece. If I can knock a piece out in an hour, and I charge $100 for that commission because maybe they asked for Venom, I can draw him in my sleep.
Mhm.
That's awesome. But if they want me to draw Iron Man, where it's a little more technical and I haven't drawn a lot, I'm going to get paid less, but I'm not going to charge them more for my headache and my frustration. That just means I got to practice more to cut that time down.
Yeah,
So, they're paying you for your expertise, your talent, your skill, and your time, but they're not paying you per hour per
yeah,
se. So, that's one of the biggest shifts that I had to do from the corporate life to basically being a independent artist. And that's one thing that I try to guide others into is one, practice. Definitely build up your mental library. Invest in books. Like I have this pose book and I have flagged for different poses I like. That is a thick one, but it has all sorts of
oh
pre-rendered
yeah.
and I will sketch these out all the time.
Well,
Um, just for practice.
it was funny because I've known a lot of people who getting in their business in comic books and stuff like that, and almost every one of them for like Christmas, I buy them Grey's Anatomy. I get them the
Yeah,
anatomy book. I'm like, there you go. That's probably one of the best
that's
things.
it.
Yep.
I
Um,
have like I think I have like 4 or 5 actual anatomy books that break down the muscle and how they connect. And like I look like I'm trying to become a doctor, and I'm not. I just know how the muscles work because if I'm drawing it, I need to know it. And that kind of goes back to the style where I will render out every muscle fiber that you have, and I can't simplify it like Gravity Falls or something. I don't know how to do that. So it's just not my wheelhouse, and I'm not really wanting it to be.
no,
So
there's people who. Oh, I was talking to, I can't remember if it was Ken or Buzz, the guys that used to do Living Corpse,
mhm,
and he goes like, man, he goes, I can't draw. People want me to draw like, um, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow. I can't draw Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow. He goes, I can make a
right.
cartoony version of her, like my style. He
Yep.
goes, I can't do that. And so he's like sitting there going, this is what I can do. And you see the guy just kind of like, oh, and they're like, dude, that's pretty cool for,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's another thing is portraits. Portrait. Like I can sketch if needed. It just takes me a very long time because again, the attention to detail is huge. And I've actually recently started turning those away
mm-hmm,
because a lot of people want to draw maybe a deceased relative. I
mm-hmm,
understand that. I really would love to be able to contribute. One, if my schedule allows it, I'll take it on. But two, if all you have is a grainy photo from the 60s, I can't really work with that. It's kind of tough, and I've actually kind of pissed off a few people in my time because I wasn't able to make it look like their memory of their relative. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but these are the photos you gave me. I don't know what they look like. Like they
yeah,
wanted them smiling, but the pictures look like they're angry. Or it was a candid photo where they didn't even know the camera was there. So I'm like, I don't know what their dimples look like. I don't know this stuff. So I very rarely will take on a portrait style piece. And if they want me to draw them in a comic, I might do that. But I haven't had a lot of requests like that. So again, that goes back to know your limits and know what you're good at and communicate that to your customer. I mean, they'll be okay if you explain to them why something because they don't know everyone that you've worked with. So I explain, hey, just like I'm explaining to you, this is why, this is what I've experienced, and honestly, it just wasn't worth it for me in my time to invest in that. So yeah, and they're always seem to be pretty cool about it as long as you're honest.
Oh yeah, it's funny because you were talking about that. I almost every time we've had free comic book day and we've had artists in the shop, you always have the
Hmm.
one guy come in and go, "Hey, can you draw my family as the X-Men?" And I just like,
Always.
it's like, you just want to look at them and go, but I'm not gonna lie, almost pretty much everybody we've ever had has stepped up and tried to draw them
Hmm.
as, but you're just still like you can just
Yep.
see the look of like, "Ah, yeah, I'll do
Uh,
it."
you see the disappointment, but we fight through that smile like absolutely. Because in the end, we don't want to disappoint anybody. I feel so bad, and my wife can actually attest to this, that when I have to turn somebody away, it eats at me, and it's not even because of the money per se. It's just they kind of had their heart set, and they came to me and asked, and to me that's an honor. Like,
Mhm.
you're asking me to create something so personable for you, and I know I can't deliver. One, it's either time or I just don't think I do it justice, and that feels bad. So there's really no way to practice drawing likenesses of other of certain people. You can practice sketches all you want, but at the end, everybody looks different. So I mean,
Oh
I've
yeah.
I've had to redraw a few things before because they said it didn't look like them, even though it was literally that the grid method. I literally gridded out their portrait onto paper. It was an 18 by 24 poster size, and I gridded out perfectly. And I showed it to about 5 different people. Like, that is spot on. But the person was not happy because their little angel had too big of a forehead, and I'm like, sorry, but she does.
'Cause
Like, I don't. I'm not a cart. Like, it's not a caricature. It's just how she is. Her hair was pulled back. It made her forehead look big.
big.
I sketched the exact. It fit in 5 squares. It was in 5 squares on this. So, oh well.
Well,
Can't win them all.
I think it was I want to say it was Alex Ross who said he
Hmm.
would never do another licensed property because he did I want to think I want to say it's him. He wouldn't do because he had to do Xena, I believe. And Lucy
Hmm.
Lawless was like, that doesn't look like me. That doesn't look like me. And he's like, it's
It does,
it does.
and I can't see Alex not messing something up like
Yeah.
that.
I
You
want to say it was
know?
out. Don't quote me 100%. I know it was somebody, and I'm
No.
almost positive it was Xena. And for some reason, I was thinking it was Alex Ross. So
Hey,
not.
yeah. If they're getting licensed like that, I really, I can't see it. I just think that they're so used to having their butts kissed on set all the time that when something doesn't go the way they see it, yeah, I
Yeah,
can see that happening.
because you're like, oh, my
And good
butt's
for
too
him
big. No, you
setting
got a
down.
big ass. No.
Yeah, you're kind of big back there. Yeah,
It's
those are fun.
Oh yeah. It's I like I said, I always feel bad because I've seen it at cons for as long as I've been doing cons. You always have the artist over there, and you always have the people going, "Oh, draw me in a comic," or "Draw, let's do that." I mean, have I have
Yeah,
has this mug appeared in a comic book? Yes. Do I look at it and go, that don't look like me? I'm like, it looks close enough. That's, I can tell it's
close
supposed
enough.
to be me.
Got the beard, got a hat. Yeah, that's for me, and a lot of people know this, that I turned down a lot of those type of jobs just because it just doesn't feel right for me to say yes. But there have been times that whenever I want to go into a Kickstarter and someone asks me, hey, if someone pays for this tier, would you draw them in the comic? I will say yes all the time, because one, that's going to get someone interested in that tier, which
Hmm.
helps the publisher, and they're going to know Adam never does this. So the fact that he's willing to do it, it's special,
Yeah,
because I want to appeal. So I want it to be something that they know is one of a kind. Like, I don't do it often, but when I do, it's something special. So
yeah. It's
yeah,
yeah, because it's if that's not your wheelhouse, man, So if
yeah,
you're going over there, you're putting effort into it.
I am. and I try to go all out on pages, man. Like the way that I lay out the panels, from the character placement to, just the action, and just to make everything look dynamic. If I know there's not a lot of words on the page, you're going to get a full page of art. And if you're getting small panels here and there, basically I just know I try to fit as much as I can in that little tiny area to make it cool to look at, but you need to read the words too. So yeah.
Yeah. Now, who are some of your influences? We just talked about, the grim and gritty stuff. We talked about Bernie Wrightson. So, I mean,
yeah, there were so many. So when I first got started, I would shut my office door and I would scour YouTube to try to find somebody um, that was giving out comic advice, and that's how I stumbled upon Todd Knock.
mhm.
And funny story is, I actually ended up meeting him at C2E2, and I told him the story like, "Hey, I found your videos on how you were sketching on Post-it notes, and I was following along in my office on my Post-it notes." And when you started drawing with or coloring with Copics, I went out and bought a full set. Like, and he talked to me like we were best buds, and that meant the world to me. He was introducing me to these other artists that I didn't know who they were until I saw their work, and I'm like, oh my god, like it was really cool. So he's a huge influence, not only just on the art side of things, but how he treats his fans. That is the way that I want people to walk away with that type of memory. Um, Art related though, David Finch, love his attention to detail. Love, like, every bit has energy in it. From every wrinkle that he draws to his Walking Dead covers that he did, all the grunge and just gore on the zombie side, and the same amount, but it was cleaner on the, like, it was really neat. So I love David Finch style. Capullo was one of my earliest influences. Him and McFarlane were some of my very, very early ones. And Capullo, I read when I first got into comics. He was doing Zero Year and Batman, and
Mhm.
that was the first series that I actually had bought the whole set, and I actually still have them because it's what got me started. I read them all the way through. I copied some of the panels and art style. I'm like, man, I love his. He makes it look so simple. And Jonathan, his inker, like, cleans up all his mess. So Jonathan's one of my favorite inkers. Can't really beat it. And yeah, so I was copying, him, just trying to get his style, but he makes it look way too easy for what's in that his pages. Um, but yeah, those were some of my big influences. Jim Lee, his work, but I think I lean more towards David Finch on the line art and
Yeah.
sort of how he renders everything.
David Finch's run on Moon Knight was just stupid good.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal stuff right there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, all right. Now, if you could work with anybody, like you get a writer and you get an inker, who you getting?
Okay. Writer. I'm going to say Robert Kirkman for writing, because he has such great stories, and they're always out there. I love that. I personally like to pencil and ink my own stuff just because I can speed through it. But if I had to pick an inker, Jonathan, just to clean everything up. And a good inker is also a good illustrator, I have found. Anyone can really trace a line, but somebody, it takes a special person to see what you were trying to do and make it their own. That's the key. So Jonathan does that. Jonathan Glathian is the one I'm talking about, if anyone didn't know. And then for colorist, oh my god. Well, if I got Jonathan, I gotta go Fuko. Like, his colors are just so simple. Like, there's not much to it. And honestly, I've been told that comic book coloring, it just needs to be enough to push the story forward. It doesn't need to be over rendered and everything. I am honored though, for the book that I just completed. I hired my one of my good friends, one of my very first friends once I got started. His name's Chad Shodel. He's coloring the newest book, and let me tell you, I'm glad I picked him. He's knocking it out of the park. So um, he actually told me, he's like, I'll be the Fuko to this. I said, go for it, dude. Just have fun with it. I didn't even give him any guidelines. So whatever you come up with these characters, besides the main characters, that's what they're going to be. I said, I want you to have your voice in it. So I kind of let the reins go on it. I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'd be my team.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good team. And it's funny because I'm gonna go on Kirkman. Is I am a huge fan of Invincible, and I think
Yes,
Invincible is his best work. And people give me shit. They're like, "Ah, that's what." I'm like, "No, no, dude, go read Invincible. It kicks everything else's ass."
it it does. It does. And one of my fans was actually he told me to check it out. So after the series came out and I binge watched it because I fell in love. I had to go back and I read I think the first two volumes.
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away. I'm like, oh my god, how did I not know about this? You know, Ryan's artwork in it is killer, and that was actually one of the first guys I followed on TikTok. By the way, I found him and I'm like, oh, he's on here, awesome. And so I get advice from him through TikTok. But yeah, Invincible is I think a lot of people are sleeping on it, and they shouldn't be.
I did not catch it right away when it first dropped. I think I found like issue 10, and I'm just kind of like bored when I'm like, it's pretty good. And then I go like, hey,
What's for this? You know,
1 through 9, okay. And then it kind of went up pretty good, and then it went back down, then it went back up. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh my god! And one of the best scenes, and I love this scene in the book, is him on the back of the shuttle flying through space trying to eat a sandwich, and it's frozen, and just the fact that you would have, I mean, it would be frozen and you're traveling through space. I was like, that's so stupid.
His attention to detail, it is. I love it. Yeah, that's why I would want Robert, because one, I kind of really fell in love with his approach to everything. He's such a troll, and he admits it. Like I heard in I heard in a documentary. I always put on stuff while I'm working. It was about Image. He in Walking Dead. He lied to him basically to get it published. He said something about like it was aliens that was the reason for the zombies. And like they were so many issues in, and they were like, "So when are the aliens coming in?" He goes, "I lied. There's no aliens." Like to me, that is just so ballsy and to change it. But it was such a success. They were like, "Okay." I would never have the guts to do that. Like I'm working on my synopsis right now for the full arc, stressing myself out. This dude goes up and just straight up lies, and it becomes a multi-million-dollar franchise.
Well,
I love it.
What's funny is I remember Walking Dead first dropped, because I was at the time I was working at Dragon's Lair down in Dayton, and no one bought it.
Yeah,
no one cared. It was just another zombie comic at the time when everything was zombie saturated, and I picked up like issues 1 through 6 because Joanne, who was running it, owned it, owed me money. And I'm like, I'm just going to take these books for the money. You know, I was gathering up books instead of getting paid. And 1 through 6 of Walking Dead were like, all right. So I put them in the thing and I read them and I enjoyed it and didn't think it was going to be The Walking Dead. And then it ended up being The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
That really, and what I noticed is like that every zombie book from then on has been compared to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's why I think in the past 3 years I've started turning projects down like this, but that I've had at least 4 or 5 different zombie books that people have wanted me, or at least short stories that were part of anthologies that were zombie related. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't want to break your bubble, but it's just zombies. Like there's no depth to it. You just have mindless things going around killing people. There's not even a scare factor. There's not enough for people to get. So like I got bored drawing zombies. At first I was like, oh, these are super fun, but now I'm like, I got to find something different, you know? So that's why I enjoyed the book that I just did for the Sub-Zero mission. It's called Blue Coat Missionary. It's a nonprofit out of Cleveland. I can talk about it in a little bit, but I like that because it is an original storyline but it's not even a franchise. And I'm trying my hardest to tell them we need to push this through to someone bigger than me because it's got some meat behind it and it's got a great motive behind it. So that right there, they already did the hard part for me is coming up with a story for this guy because it represents them as an organization and as individuals. So like this is crazy. So I'm hoping with what we're doing on this one, I'm gonna try my hardest to convince them to let me pitch it to somebody so we can get more eyes on it and more money into their nonprofit. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
cool. Um, let's see. Well, trying to think if I've asked you all the questions here. Also, okay.
yeah.
Now, when you started, when did you start self-publishing? When did you decide, hey, this is it. I'm publishing.
Yeah. So almost right away, I knew I was going to be doing it on my own. Funny thing is, at my old job, I was actually the technical writer. So I was in the marketing department, but I was writing instruction manuals. So I was like friends with multiple printing presses, and I knew how to format books.
Mm-hmm.
And funny thing is, these were all saddle stitch books, so I already knew how to format, saddle stitch
Yep.
staple bound, book. So it wasn't really that big of a leap for me to go from telling you how to change fryer oil to telling sequential story. It was the more of the many details that I needed help with. That's where Dan really kind of came in and sort of swooped me up. I was just really a nobody walking through his door the first, like, I think they were open maybe 2 months or something like that. And I walked in and said, "Hi, my name's Adam. I really would like to make comics." I hear that all the time at cons. So I can't
Mm-hmm.
imagine how many times he's heard that in his life. And he goes, "Oh, that's cool." And, he still took me serious, but he didn't realize how serious I was and that I'd already started scripting my way and researching. So when I started showing him, basically phases like, "Hey, I've already got this phase done. Hey, I've already got this plotted. Already got the first couple pages drawn." He goes, "This is good." He actually was the one that kind of held me know what to, how many issues I should have printed my first time around, and how to really get them in other people's hands. And then I actually did my first launch at their shop. So Prowl was released January 25th, 5 years ago. So it's insane to think, but now he's the one that sort of started going, "You need to talk to a publisher." So he's the one kind of behind to pushing me into my uncomfortable zone of pitching my story to somebody else who's going to distribute it. So he goes, "You need to focus on the artwork and story. Let somebody else handle the printing." Because I think he thinks it's big enough to do something. But right away, I already knew I was going to be doing it myself, just because I was a nobody. I didn't have any credit under my belt. I've never done anything with anybody else. So you got to start from from start. And I rather make the mistakes myself before I bring anybody else on, so that when they are coming up with issues, I might have a solution for it, and I can be sympathetic with them. Like, I understand. Don't stress. I don't put harsh deadlines on people. I just sort of try to be as relaxed as I can throughout the process, because we all have lives, things happen. It'll get done when it gets done. So yeah, but I know that'll have to change when I get it to a publisher. But I've learned, have everything all, have as much as done as possible before talking to somebody. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of work done before I even send that letter.
Yeah. Well, I talked to another guy. He goes, before I even did any work, sent out any, feelers or anything else, he goes, I had the artwork done for like the first 3 books of a 4-issue
Mm-hmm.
miniseries before I even had anything done. He goes, because if worst comes to worst, I can self-publish. So it's not like this is going to
Yep.
go to waste. So it's
Exactly.
yeah. I mean,
Exactly.
I write when I actually have time, which is not often. Um, and I've got some stuff which I've not gotten published because I've got artists that have worked on it and I don't put them on any deadlines. So if I ever get the artwork, it's like, hey, I can actually publish this now. Uh,
Yep.
I love Jay to death, but Jay Cordray has my book. He's got, I have the last page of the first story arc hanging on the wall in my shop. So, and I don't have anything else. I know it exists, but I have the last page. But I created essentially two universes, and I have a superhero universe, and then I have a like supernatural universe, and
Yeah.
you know, and so I fiddle with them still to this day. I've got notebooks full of stories because I'm weird and I hate typing, so everything is legitimately handwritten. Then when I have to send it to somebody, I have to type it all out, which I suck at. I used to have Tina do that, but now Tina's so busy with school and everything else that she doesn't want to type it all out. So now I have to like, okay,
Heck, it's fine. Yeah.
the 2-finger method. So now, when you create, do you like plot first? You know, like, or do you write the story first? Like just
Man, I fumble through. I'm telling you, I have a couple people that I reach out to whenever I'm starting to write. Like, hey, I have a nugget of an idea. Like, here's like an action scene that I want, and I really build my story around the action scene. For Prowl, so right now I've already released issues 1 through 7. They're good, but they're not great. So I'm actually remastering, and that's what I'm going to be pitching. So I'm actually starting it over from one, and I'm only going to do 6 issue volumes. So that's going to be going forward. So what I did was I knew where I needed the story to end that will carry it forward, and I knew what the climax of this arc is going to be. So I literally write down climaxes, and I like you. I'm old school. I like. Let me see here. Let me see if I can grab this for you. Yes, there they are. I legit have post-it notes that I write scenes on, and like, and I will stick them around and as a timeline, and will shift them around as needed. And then I take a picture of it, or I stack them in order and I number them. And then I type them all out. So I have, the major arc done, like the full plot, but then I will break it down into chunks like, okay, this could be a climax, this could be a climax, this could be a climax. That's going to be how many volumes. And then I break it down from there. When I dive into a script, I don't even worry about dialogue. I don't even worry about panel breaking. I know that I'm going to have 24 to 26 pages in my book. So I try to keep it at least 24. I think the 6th issue for the remaster of Prowl, I think 28 pages because I needed the extra, and it's the finale, so why not make it go a little longer? So I write out, page 1 through 24, in the number, and then on this page this happens, this page this happens, this page, and then I will try to figure out how to bridge them and panel, and then I just sort of break it out from there. And so far it seems to work. I don't know if that's how they teach you, but I've had to teach myself writing because I didn't go to school for writing. Like I said, I was a technical writer. So if you read Prowls 1, 2, and I think 3, it sounds very robotic. I've been told as they're talking in the dialogue because that's how I was taught. I worked with a paralegal side by side on how to write these documents. That's all I knew. But now I've learned how to free flow and give people their own voice and their own, basically their own dialect. Like I think of Penguin often in Batman, how he cuts off some of his words, and you read it that way to give him that New York style accent. So it's like, that's what they mean by it sounds robotic. Got it. So yeah. But when I script it, it's like the story. I literally just keep it high level. This character dies. That's it. How do I get there? Then what does that affect going forward?
Yeah. See, when I write, I write it essentially in prose. So I just write as the entire story as I
Mhm.
need it. Then I go back and would script it as a comic book. And I'm anal, so I put I when I'm writing it out, I put at the top of each page. That's how the panel is that I want to, it's like that's the panel. That's how I want it drawn.
Mhm.
Then you'll go to the next one. It's like this is the panel. This is how I want it drawn, but this is everything in there. And and yes, I'm not gonna lie. I've done my image book, so I had like the one that's just all action, not a whole lot of dialogue, and then that's my superhero
Yep.
book. Then I've done my supernatural stuff, which is a lot of dialogue and a lot
Mhm.
of going back and forth between the characters and everything else like that. And that's probably more my Vertigo book than my Image book. I don't. That's the best explanation I could explain
Right.
those books. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
No.
everybody has their own method. Um,
They
I know.
do.
I'm trying to remember who it was. He would basically draw the book as he would think about it, then go back and put the dialogue in later. And he's like, I know this is what I
Was
want
that
to happen.
Kirby?
Huh? Kirby did that back in the day
I think
too.
Jack Kirby.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. I worked with Victor Dandridge from
oh,
Vantage In House. I'm
mhm,
actually starting the second book to his Point of Authority,
mhm.
Family Ties, tomorrow. I've already got 2 pages inked, um, but I'm starting like going forward every day. That's my next big project, um, and that's what he does. He doesn't even dialogue anything. He literally just sends me, panel one. This is what it's not even a description. It's just the look on his face is very sad and it's just very very descriptive. But I get to figure out, okay, how's that going to read best on page. And what's funny is he's already done thumbnails himself, just in case if I don't have ideas or what he thinks it should look like. And then
Mhm.
when I send him my thumbnails, he goes, "Dude, these are better. Run with them." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So he's already got it, but it's like a secret. I'm not allowed seeing him. He wants to see what we come up with. He's really really fun like that. But then he takes what we do as artists, and then he writes the dialogue to match each emotion and scene. Because he's really good about having descriptive. It's like semi prose, I guess, is what I would call it. They're just descriptions of what's happening in the scene, almost the Marvel style,
Yeah.
but with no dialogue. So sometimes that gets confusing. I'm not gonna lie, not having dialogue. So I'm like, what are they saying? Like, I need to know something, but it's a big surprise. So when I see the final book, it's like reading it for the very first time, even though I drew the whole thing. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool.
That's that is like I said, everybody has their own
It's
method.
different.
Yeah.
They do.
Oh man. It's funny because when I've just read a while back, well, I reread Kirby King of the Comics, the big Mark Evner wrote it.
Hmm.
That's a great study in that. I just read I don't know if I have it close by, it's somewhere on the bookshelf. Steve Ditko's one, which is similar, and you're talking kind of like second, almost third hand, because Ditko didn't really talk to anybody. But seeing their method, and then I remember finding the old how to draw videos that came out in the early 90s on VHS. I don't remember if you knew, they're like Comic Crates, I
Yeah.
think. And watching those guys create
Yes.
and finding stuff from like John Buscema create, and you're like, man, no one does anything similar. And they tried to go, oh, this is the Marvel way. We do it, all of us do it. And I'm like, no, you don't, man.
Literally, the first book that I bought was
Yep.
illustrating comics the Marvel way.
Yep.
I think every artist, the comic creator should have this and read it cover to cover and practice, because there's some good foundations in there. but then you can modify them your own way because, like you said, everyone has their own approaches.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't need to shadow and draw and render out anything with pencil. I rough it all in. I look and go, I can figure this out, and then I jump right to inks because that's going to speed up the process and get the book out quicker.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that's I'm now comfortable with that. Where earlier I did have to render everything. It was like drawing it 3 times, and that was tough. But now I just jump right into the inks.
So you had to
Whereas I know a lot of people take that time.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because you showed that. I found my How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way DVD and my VHS tape. So
nice.
I'm sure if it was on Laserdisc, I'd own it too on Laserdisc because I'm weird.
Right. It's such a good book though. It's a good reference to have. But man, now you can find, like, I follow David Finch online and on his YouTube channel, and he does amazing tutorials. So if anyone's like, I just don't have time to practice, literally turn on one of his videos, watch it once, then attempt it because they're not that long, and that gets your your little practice in for the day. You don't have to practice multiple things. Just focus on one thing at a time, because the way that you learn to render a tree or whatever will come in handy down the road for maybe a character that you're drawing, or wrinkles in shirts can come in handy for anything else. It's training your brain. It's not necessarily that focus. It's just building that library and getting your brain geared to look for how shadows work and how highlights and everything sort of works together.
Yeah, it's funny because you talk about that, doing it whenever. I was like, I've got a couple buddies when they come around, and they're artists, and they'll just be sitting at the counter while we're talking, and they'll be sitting there just sketching on a junk piece of paper, and then I'll leave, and it'll be this this piece of artwork. I'm like, oh, cool. So I'll stick that in the file over here.
Yep. I don't know how many napkins I've drawn on at at restaurants and stuff. I just have no clue. But I leave it with a tip and a business card because you just never know. And what's really funny about that, kind of like what you did, it kind of means a lot. If you ever bring it out to them, you're like, hey, you remember doing this? I'm sure that they'll blow their mind. It's like, oh man, I can't remember. You kept that. We went to a restaurant in Cincinnati called Americano. It's right around the corner from their convention center. And one year I did a sketch of a Thanos on a napkin waiting for my food. And a waiter, he walked up and goes, oh, that's amazing. I'm like, yeah, cool, have it. I don't care. Take it. So he took it. The next year, that's kind of our thing. We go to Americano after the first day. And he walked up and goes, hey, were you at the convention last year? I said, yeah. He goes, man, I still have your sketch you did. And he brought it out. I went, are you kidding me? Like, he remembered it. So yeah, those little sketches, they mean a lot to us little artists.
Oh man, my son Joe, when he was little, I called him a con man because he could con anybody out of anything. And so he has just he's still got them. He's got sketches that these artists would do because he'd just be coming up there and he'd just be watching them do that. And he's like, well, what character you like? And Joe would be like, I don't know, Goku or something like that, or and these kids would just sketch out a quick one and hand it to him, and the kids still got them. I mean, my boys live in their own house now, and it's stuff that and I'm like sitting there going through some of the stuff. I'm like, wow, I didn't know you met him. I was like, he's
right. These kids.
Joe was sneaky. We'd go to Pittsburgh, and I'd be standing in line to meet somebody or buying some stuff, and he'd wander next to the booth next to me or whatever, and he'd come back with something. And I'm like, dude, you're not stealing. I thought, I hate to say it, I thought my kid had stolen it. And I go back and they're like, nah, this kid just knew what he was talking about. And this is going on. I'm like, you sure you want him to have this? Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. And so Joe has prints and everything else that he's gotten from artists and sketches. And it means the world to him because it was just something that they gave to him for enjoying sitting there watching him when he was 8 years old. So
I love it. Yeah, our kids have come back from cons because if they're at a show with us, we just let them walk around, especially like Gym City or something
Mhm.
where literally we know every booth, so I'm not
Yeah.
worried at all. Um, I have eyes on them at all times. My oldest, he has his phone and everything. They'll come back with stuff. I'm like, how much money did you bring? He goes, nothing. They just gave it to us. I'm like, good Lord, how do you do that? But then again, I don't know how many times I've given some stuff away to little ones just because. So I I've seen it and I've been on the giving end of it. So it's just what we do. We try to encourage as much as we can.
Yep. It is years ago I was at a newsstand and I watched this little kid go to steal a comic book. This is probably, I don't know, freaking like 1990 or something like that. And
Yeah.
I sit there and I looked at this little kid. I'm like, I turn around because I can see him like putting it up his shirt. And I'm like, are you going to steal that? And the kid's like, no. And I'm like, are you going to read it? He's like, yeah. And I went, come here. And we walked up to the counter, and it was at the time, comic book was like $1.25. So I gave the woman, I was like, I told him, I was like, don't ever let me see you stealing. I was like, I'm gonna buy this for you. And years later, the kid came in my shop because you're the reason I like comics. I'm like, sweet. So and now
That's cool.
now
That's
he's an
cool.
adult and I haven't seen him in probably a couple decades, but it was still nice being able to take a kid who was going to steal a book and getting him, and he's like ends up liking comics because I bought him his first book or whatever. So, or at least
Yeah.
paid for the first book that he didn't
Yeah.
steal. I
It
don't
just
know.
takes a little bit of kindness.
Yeah. It,
Yeah. It's a little bit of kindness, man. And we all need it.
yep. I've told people this before. I was like, and have I had people shoplift from the store? Yeah, I get it. It's going to happen, whatever. But I've caught kids, and I've like, if you would have asked me, I'd have gave you this book, because they're trying to shoplift like the cheap books because they're easy to get to. And I'm like, and they're like, okay. And they're
Yeah.
like, like a couple months down the road, they're like, can I have this? And I'm like, yeah, take it. Now run with it and go. I'll see, was that so hard?
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
nice being able to see it
Yeah.
and help little kids and get them to love comics and yeah. So
Yeah, same. The comic reading side and then the art side. I mean, they go hand in hand. So whenever someone walks up to our table with a portfolio or their cell phone, they just want someone to look at it. I
mhm.
will happily spend 5-10 minutes looking at it, critiquing, and just listen to their story because whenever they leave, I always tell them one day I want to see you sitting in the artist alley, if not next to me. And it's happened a few times where I've told someone I want to see you here in the next few years, and literally they were in the artist alley, and it was just cool to see that little connection, that little circle happen. And because that's what happened with me. I was walking around Cincinnati, and that's actually how I met Chad. He was an artist there, and now I end up working with him. Um, it's really cool, and it takes no time just to be a kind person and uplift somebody
Mhm.
that is there. Who cares if they don't want to buy from you right away? That that's fine. You're planting a seed so that someone else can have their dreams come true.
Yep.
That goes way further, I think.
Oh yeah. It's good because I mean you just got to get that good karma, got it coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
because you never know who you're going to help out. You're going to get that
No.
one guy that next thing you're like, hey, and then they're like, I can take you with me. And
Yep. Oh, Stuart Sager's one that I always talk about because he was actually at my very first free comic book day.
Mhm.
Um, Backing up a little before I even started doing comics, before I had just had the urge to want to pursue an art career.
Mhm.
So I was still at my job, and we had went to Gym City Comic Con. And I was just wanting to walk around the artist alley and talk to different artists. I'd never been to a Comic Con before, and we happened to go to Gym City. and it was still at the student union, I believe. So
Yeah.
we were walking in, we were talking to a few people. We were there maybe 20 minutes, and I stumbled across Stewart's stuff, and I really liked his style. It was very messy, but yet very dynamic. And his hair was all messed up, his fingers were all dirty, so he just got done drawing, and he was talking to me, and I was getting some really good info from him. And he had mentioned that he had done the Bionicle comic
Hmm.
books. I loved Bionicle. I actually had his comics growing up, and I didn't know it was him. So I was really interested in hearing from him. Well, my son ended up getting sick, so we ended up having to leave. We were there maybe 20 minutes. I didn't get anything. I didn't even catch his name. I just remember what he looked like and what his art looked like.
Hmm.
Didn't know who this guy. Fast forward the next year, I started doing my own stuff, and Pete offered me time. Hey, you want to come set up a free comic day? I'll give you 4 feet because Stewart's going to be there. He's going to take the bulk of it. I'm like, sure. So I set up next to him, and I look at him. I'm like, this is the same guy that was talking to me. He gave me so much advice, and he flat out told me, he goes, you have a family? I said, yeah. He goes, it's going to be tough. He goes, I'm not going to lie. He goes, you have a wife and kids, it's going to be tough. Make sure that this is what you want to do, because sometimes the paycheck's there, sometimes it's not. So that, I knew the risk going into it. And now he texts me, we talk, we set up a free comic day every year together, and he's invited me out to judge his wife's art center in Noblesville. They've hosted a bunch of different events. I've been out there as guest artist. It's really cool to see that full circle come. But he invested in me, and now we're working side by side on stuff. So it's really cool, and that's what I'm hoping to do with the younger generation that want to come in.
Yeah. It's funny because you talk about that. I knew, I can't remember who told me. It's been a long time ago. Getting your foot in the door. Getting,
Mm-hmm.
you take what get it. And I think he was working for Moonstone at the time, making $25 a page. And
Yeah.
he goes, "That's where I started, working for Moonstone, making $25 a page." He goes, I still had to go work my regular job every day as I come home and knock out a page in the evening, a couple pages. He goes, and then that rolled into another job, and then it rolled into another job until you're finally, it's an actual job and not just your a
Mm-hmm.
hobby. And some people, like I said, some people think that it's just like, oh, I'm gonna get a $200 a page rate right off the bat or whatever. And I'm like, that's not how that works, man. That's not.
No, no. You have to take some of the crap jobs. There are more jobs that I didn't get paid for. Now, I've recently stopped working with them. They're on my blacklist, but I didn't get paid for these jobs, and I only got maybe 5 books for comps. And I'm like, kidding. Like, that's not enough to cover a
No.
page. So yeah, you have to really know, and that's why I'm really hoping that if anyone ever wants to do this as a job, seek out someone who has made those mistakes, like myself or anybody else that's willing to talk to you, and let us be your guide stones so that you're not getting screwed over like we did. I've now got policies in place. I have expectations, and you know and my customers and writers and editors and all that know I'm going to deliver. That I have the track record now that Adam charges this much for pencil and ink, and when he says he's going to do a page or 2 pages a day, they're going to get two pages a day. Like, they just know that. And if I know I'm going to hit a hiccup, communication. I'm always messaging, texting. However, like, actually, when I get off here, I got a call with an editor. I just had a text come through, so I've got a call right after this. But I'm going to get all my stuff done just because that's part of the job.
Yep. You got to be, on the ball. You got to be, talking to them. You got to make sure that they know
Mm-hmm.
what's going on with you, and go, hey, my
Yep.
kids are sick or whatever. I'm be a day behind or whatever. You let them know that you're going to be that day behind, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it, it's
No,
it's
there's it's amazing. Communication goes so far. Nothing's worse than radio silent. Like, are you working on it? Am I good? Do I need to find somebody else? Like, that's stressful. I don't want to be someone's stress. I want to be someone's break. Like when we go to a restaurant or something, or like when we go get our hair cut, the girl that cuts our hair is like, man, I like when you guys come in because it's just, I know your kids are not going to be crazy. They're going to sit still. They're going to be respectful. I'm like, that's the way I want to be. I want to be someone's breath of fresh air, and hopefully other people follow suit.
Yeah. And before I forget, I just realized something. I was going through my books a while back. I think I've got to get caught up on Prowl. I do not have all 7 issues.
Yeah.
And
No, they're right above me.
yeah. So I've got to get, well, that's like I did not realize till I started trying to get my crap in order recently, which is only about a third of my crap, because there's 2/3 that are in a room, floor to ceiling, long boxes that I'm not going to get to anytime soon. And that's 30 years of collecting. And then the other 10 years I've actually been able to kind of touch. And I'm not as bad as Mark. Mark rolls with me at every show, the big guy.
Yep.
Mark's 300 plus long boxes worth of books. And me, I'm not nearly as bad, but I'm getting there. I will never be that bad, hopefully.
Hopefully.
But I'm finally getting my crap in order. And what I have here at my house is bagged, boarded, in order, per box, at least right now. And then what I do is then I get other boxes and I'm slowly getting that rotated in. So all that will be in order. And then that's the bad part of collecting.
That's awesome, though. It is. But hey, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to look back, you have history in those boxes. If someone needs a reference, or if someone needs like just a recap, I mean, you have it. I love it.
It's funny because my son Joe loves Iron Man, but he does not like, I mean, he's not reading current stuff and whatnot like that. I mean, his beginning of it was, Demon in the Bottle, because he was reading my stuff when he was a kid. Mm-hmm. And, he's not. And so every once in a while, I'm like, if I get like a stack of books in, like I buy a collection or something, I will just like, hey, these are now yours. There's like, part of that era. And literally his favorite cover. And I've gotten him like a couple copies. I got like the newsstand and on like the direct market one that says has Tony Stark in the alley, all kind of humped over it. It goes, by morning, yep, Tony Stark will either be sober or dead. And that's his favorite Iron Man cover ever. And
wow,
it's great being able to get him into that stuff and being able to go back, and he can kind of go back to my personal collection, because I told him, I was like, anything happens to me, that's all yours. All those boxes of books are yours. And my wife's like, we're going to have to sell some of that off, right? We got a house to pay off, so but
sell the other books.
Yes. I told him there's one book they cannot sell. There's one, and that's my Giant Size X-Men 1. And that was my personal holy grail. I got it. It's a 9.0. I was like, you can sell everything else off. That you cannot sell.
But so, not that one.
Not that one. I was like, that's going to be a family heirloom. My grandkids will have that one day. So
I love that.
Yeah. And I was like, see all this crap back here, like the arcade cabinets, all that fun stuff. Yeah. Now my wife's like, that's all.
Great man cave.
Yeah. This did not start out completely as the man cave. Part of this was supposed to be my wife's. And then when the kids moved out, I just took over the entire, this is my basement. And then she took the top level. And then hopefully I'm going to find out soon, I might be buying a warehouse, and then I'm going to set that up. And then this will actually just be for me, and all my collectible stuff will be somewhere else. So
Oh, nice.
And
Nice.
I'll be able to have like all my stuff in order and everything else. So my OCD will finally give up on me, maybe, I don't know. So,
That'd be awesome.
yeah. Well, you said you got some business to take care of, so I'm going to let you go,
Oh, yeah.
and I will be seeing you in a few weeks at Jim and Dan on the
Can't wait, man.
27th. And I was going to come
Yes.
over and talk to you at the last show, but literally I was busy the entire time. I'm like trying to like kind of shop, and I would like walk away, and then I'd have to hurry up and come back, and then I'd walk away for it, and I'd have to hurry up. So I'm going to hopefully be able to come over and actually visit and pick up some stuff that I'm missing next time. So, all right.
You send me a list of stuff that you need. I will make sure I have a nice little Paul package for you.
All right. I might get you to get me if you still got like 1 through 7. I might do that as a put it together and do it as a giveaway for my channel too. So
absolutely.
Cool.
Consider it done.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I'll say consider it done. I'll have it ready for you.
Sweet. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go tonight, sir, and thank you for being on the show. I greatly appreciate it. And this will probably not drop this Monday, but next Monday. So I'm just giving you a heads up now. Cool. So take care, and hope you get all your business taken care of. And I know that you're hopefully we won't get this horrible weather that's supposed to be coming, and you can get out and do stuff.
My wife already said that I think starting Wednesday it's supposed to be insane. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It depends on which weather report. Like Amazon weather is like we're not getting it, but like other channels we're getting it. So I'm like,
yeah. There's one that she follows, and he has been correct every time. Dayton Weather Spot or something like that. He's got 3 models, and they both say we're going to get at least something. One is worse than the other, and then the other is the absolute worst. So we'll see.
All right. Well, take care, sir, and I will see
you too, man. I can't wait. It'll be fun. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
All right. We'd like to thank Adam for taking time off to come visit us today. And Adam is great. I will put some information to his, Facebook and all that fun stuff. And as always, Group Therapy is brought to you by RU Game, the best comic book collectible shop in all of Piqua, Ohio, located at 124 North Sunset Drive, Piqua, Ohio, 45356. And if you're watching this, you can come visit us at Jim and Dan Comic-Con at the Wright State Student Union on February 27th. 2022, which is weird to say. Okay. And we will see you next time for more Group Therapy. Take care.